I believe that every boat has its raison d'etre. You don't think that a taxi boat can go as fast as a speedboat, and you shouldn't expect an open to have the same ample space of a flying bridge. So to explore this concept a little more, I've chosen this model, the 45 Fly made by Sessa. The FLY45 is a project thought up in and for its entirety. It has a consistency of style and functionality outside and in, from the fly to the main deck. The style comes from the C68 team and is seen throughout the entire range. The hull and superstructure mix well together aesthetically. The boat looks like a single sculpted body with cuts running lengthwise and geometric windows that only go to enhance the verve and energy of this boat. But the continuity between hull and deck also comes through some unusual designs. For example, the large window that drops down to meet the side decks. The windscreen is closed in and seems to be protected by a fiberglass frame. This all goes toward making the boat fantastic. But it's the way that the boat works that makes you really appreciate it. It doesn't compromise on anything and has an incredibly spacious upper deck. The Fly drives very well, and you can sunbathe out in front of the bridge and prepare food on the barbecue. The depth of the sofas and the pull-out tables means you can have 7 people on board, and when the extensions are closed, you will find useful handrails and bottle holders. The perimeter is trimmed by the washboard like on larger boats, which protects its guests. It's a boat on which you can live outdoors, even when you are still anchored, and create the necessary privacy by just simply pulling down a dark canopy which is stored in the extension to the stern. There's an extendable table in the cockpit, and the floor is covered with large crossing transversal slats which give a sense of a bigger space. And there are many more perfectly thought-out solutions that make full use of the space, even those less accessible spaces. The interior has everything you want from a 14-metre, a living room big enough for 5 people with a table and big screen TV. There's a fully equipped kitchen that is elegantly hidden by folding shelves made by Wenge. The furniture certainly isn't monotonous, and there is a nice contrast of woods, textiles and lights that brighten up the main suite, which is surprisingly large and has lots of wardrobe space. The bathroom has a very large shower. For guests, there are 2 cabins with twin beds, one of which connects with the second bathroom. The finishes are all to a high standard, and there's great attention to detail, like the steel handrails covered with leather, not only for grip but also for comfort. And just to finish on the security note, even the bulkheads are padded so they absorb shocks better. The dashboard is high-tech but refined at the same time. Look at the lovely hand-sewn stitching on the soft leather. At the stern, the submersible platform is used to haul the tender, or can be used just to have your own private underwater beach.
Qual è la condizione peggiore per provare un fly? Questa.
So, what are the worst conditions to try a fly? Definitely these right here. A strong wind, which is on the beam now, is making it hard to even maneuver in port, and I know we are going to encounter some waves when we get onto the open sea. For now, the problems have been sorted out by Volvo's automatic positioning system or by the joystick that makes it easy to move the boat even sideways against any wind. Okay, so let's open the bridge and go out.
La prima volta che ho provato
The first time I tried the Volvo Penta joystick was on a Sessa boat.
La collaborazione qui
So
tra
this
il
link between the
costruttore di
Swedish
motori
engine
inglese,
manufacturers
italiano,
and the Italian shipyard goes back a long time, back to the beginning of the IPS propulsion system, in fact. The Sessa 45 Fly has a very grand upper deck. Such a large area is wonderful, of course, but inevitably it raises the centre of gravity. And it's because of this that I've chosen to test this boat in rough seas and high winds. We have two 435 horsepower engines, no problems with power and torque, which you feel as soon as you accelerate. And when the boat starts planing, the boat stays firm. So even the view from the lower driver's seat is good. But that's not it. Here on the Fly, the real show comes from something else. The gliding speed is sufficiently low, around 10 knots at 2,000 RPM. There's no fear of the waves, they're hitting the bow, but not too violently, even if the sea is pushing a lot today. 2,500 revs and cruising at 18 knots.
Questa è la condizione peggiore, forse lo sentite anche nell'audio.
These are the worst conditions. You can hear it. The wind is cutting across the boat, but you can hardly tell in here.
Non devo neanche correggere con i flap.
I don't even have to correct because the flaps are still fully raised.
Se dovessi navigare non sceglierei questa rotta che mi fa frangere.
If I had a choice, I wouldn't do this again as the waves are really hitting the side of the boat. But it's only like this that you can really feel how the boat reacts to all possible difficulties. Not that there are any problems at the moment. I think it's time to open her up. So let's take it to 3,000 revs. This is a good cruising speed, 26 knots. Now it's time to really go for it. We're going right up against the sea, against the waves. I want to do it without letting up on the gas. Let's see what the boat does. Despite having IPS propulsion, the angle of deviation isn't that big, especially when you remember that this is a boat with a big deck. I certainly don't want to miss the opportunity of pushing this boat to the max. Here we are, around 3,000 RPM. Okay, so it's not that agile. You have to give her time to get up to speed. The sea is behind us, as is the wind, but the maximum speed is 31 knots. It's pretty incredible. You certainly don't realize what is in store with the boat until you have tried it. Watching from the sidelines, I was afraid that this boat, with its big flying bridge, would have a balance problem. But this Sessa 45 Fly behaves well even in rough sea and strong wind.